Of course, thank you.
Yeah, so as you know, Governor Newsom has a kind of tense relationship with President Donald Trump and his
Yes.
administration. If you're the next governor, what would you want your relationship with the federal government to look like?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to do everything to protect our people and communities here in California. So a lot of the policies that actually are targeting our communities and dividing our communities and exacting cuts that are going to hurt people's lives, we're going to go on the offensive in terms of just being sure that the federal government understands that California is a significant state for this nation, and they should be right there helping us to be sure that our communities are safe and healthy.
Right, and you mentioned targeting communities and how a lot of people have perceived that lately is
Yes.
things like sending out the National Guard to cities
Exactly.
or sending ICE to cities
Right.
or areas near the border. How would you try to handle or tackle that issue?
I think first and foremost, we need to let the public know what is going on. They read about it, they hear about it on television, it creates a lot of anxiety. But just to talk about what the federal government can and can't do, what the state's role is in all of this, and what the community's role is in all of this. So I think just some basic, public information about, what is going on is first and foremost very key. But I will tell you that as I've been here in Kern County, a lot of the anxiety around what the federal government is doing is the impending cuts to health care. Here in Kern County, we have a lot of people who are on Medi-Cal, and so they're going to see a lot of pressures in terms of where they're going to be getting their health care should those cuts become reality. Yeah.
And here locally, recently actually, a huge oil piece of legislation was passed regarding energy production in Kern
Yes.
County, which is kind of controversial. So I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, I think in terms of what we're experiencing, look, oil, gas prices are a pocketbook issue for many, many Californians, and so I think the legislature and the governor were right to focus their attention on trying to relieve some of that burden. On the other hand, we're also trying to do an energy transition to a more renewable economy, and I would say there we haven't really done the planning necessary to get to that endpoint. As we're accelerating renewables, what are we doing with respect to jobs and livelihoods and industries like this that are just so just foundational to Kern County? And so I hope we can renew those conversations when I become governor, to where we have communities involved about what this new economy will look like, what these jobs look like, and more importantly, how we can also reduce the costs to people's pocketbooks for energy prices. Yeah.
Earlier this week, one of the other candidates in this race, Katie Porter, had a not super successful interview with the local CBS affiliate in Sacramento. And after that, some members of the Democratic Party, perhaps you yourself, have suggested maybe she should step aside from the race.
Yes.
What in that interview made you come to that decision?
I actually was the first, unfortunately, and will continue to say that she should step aside. I think what really made it difficult for me to, once I watched the interview, was the fact that voters are really trying to decide who they want to lead the state next, and to not be responsive to the reporters' questions, I think, was a mistake. I think voters really need to differentiate what we all have to bring to the table, and her not taking that opportunity to provide that, I thought was a misstep. But it was also just the tenor of the exchange. I get that campaigns are stressful, but I also understand that sometimes women candidates get held to a different standard. But that different standard means that we have to conduct ourselves, in respectful ways, in ways where we are the adults in the room that are going to be just forthright in terms of what we're going to be doing when we step into this position of leadership. So since that became public, the interview, I know there have been other stories about her pattern of abusive behavior. And this has become a big distraction, and frankly, it's a big embarrassment. And for those reasons, I believe she should exit the race.
And just one last question. If you become California's next governor, what policy priority or initiative are you most excited about? What do you want to prioritize?
Well, what I want to prioritize is just what's working in California. We always talk about what's not working in California, and I will say that everywhere that I travel with this grassroots campaign, including here in Kern County, there is so much that is working in the communities, in areas that are either under-resourced or under-invested in by our governments. We see a lot of innovation because you're compelled to do that. But the partnerships, the collaborations, I want to actually pick up on that in terms of how we can look at these statewide to solve some of our most thorniest issues, whether it's the homelessness problem, whether it's housing affordability, whether it's looking at the impact of healthcare cuts and how we may have to reimagine what healthcare looks like. We already have a great starting point, and all of you here in Kern County do such a good job of just working with each other. So I'm going to say that I'm going to be prioritizing on what's working to have that be the model and the foundation of how we can make California just add up for everyone again.
Absolutely. Betty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.